At number 10, Jalen Brunson. Number 9, Kevin Durant. LeBron is at number 8. Steph Curry at number 7. Anthony Edwards at number 6. Here is the top 5, and all 5 are international players. At number 5, Victor Wembanyama. Number 4, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Number 3, Luka Doncic. Number 2, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And number 1, Nikola Jokic. What do you think about this list? The fact that ESPN's top 5 players are from outside of the U.S. says a lot about the growth of international basketball. Send me your thoughts at ray@smileyAudiomedia.com. ray@smileyAudiomedia.com. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and I am delighted to be reporting from the Congressional Black Caucus's annual legislative conference. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DrNiiQ, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or just tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. Last but not least, be sure to subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you'll never miss an episode. Now, listen, I promise to give you the full scoop on all the magical moments and important insights from this year's Congressional Black Caucus. But in short order, you'll be hearing from one of the leaders on the front lines, Bishop Joseph Tolton, who is here in Washington, D.C. at the CBC. There's a lot happening, particularly as it relates to actions by our government. There's a lot happening, particularly related to white nationalism whipping up here at home and abroad. And so here to separate the fact from the fiction, Bishop Tolton will be with us in short order. But it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, the White House is laying the groundwork for mass government firings if there's a shutdown. NBC News is reporting that the White House is raising the stakes of a potential government shutdown by drafting requests for federal agencies to prepare for, quote, a reduction in force. Reduction in force plans in case Congress doesn't pass a spending bill before October 1st. In a memo from the Office of Management and Budget obtained by NBC News, the Trump administration indicated it's prepared to go beyond the traditional furloughing of some government employees during shutdowns and fire federal employees. The memo, first reported by Politico, points to job losses for certain federal employees if the government shutdown happens next week. The memo says that agencies should be directed to consider a reduction in force notice for all employees in programs, projects, or activities whose discretionary funding will lapse on October 1st and that lack available alternative funding sources. And so the stakes are very high here in our nation's capital, but even beyond, because it's a reminder that most federal employees aren't even in Washington, D.C. Most federal employees aren't even in the DMV. Most federal employees are employed across the country. In fact, in my home state of California, where our home station is located, there are about 150,000 federal employees in California alone. And so don't think that what's happening here won't visit itself wherever you are. And other very important news, also reported by NBC, Trump is expected to sign the TikTok deal and meet with Turkey's leadership today. The president is expected to sign this deal to facilitate the sale of China-based TikTok to a group of U.S. investors. That's according to two White House senior officials. TikTok's current China-based owner, ByteDance, will hold less than 20% of the stock of the new company. We also know that the administration is looking to hold back grants from New York City, Chicago, and Fairfax, Virginia, schools over trans bathroom policies. They seem to really like focusing on trans bathrooms, and that's why three of the nation's largest public school districts stand to lose $24 million after missing a Trump administration deadline to agree to change policies supporting transgender students. The U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights has given New York City schools, Chicago public schools, and Fairfax County public schools in Virginia until Tuesday, to agree to stop giving students access to locker rooms and restrooms corresponding with their gender identity, or risk losing funding for specialty magnet schools. We also know that the Secretary of War, formerly known as the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, has summoned senior military officers to Washington next week for an extremely rare meeting whose purpose is yet to be disclosed. Sean Parnell, a Pentagon spokesperson, sent a statement confirming that Hegseth will be meeting with senior officers next week without elaborating. The Secretary of War will be addressing his senior military leaders early next week. When we come forward, there is an article in the news that caught my attention, and that being the case, I knew exactly who to call to help us unpack it and separate the fact from the fiction. The article published in foreignpolicy.com entitled "Why Charlie Kirk's White Nationalism Resonated with Some Non-Whites Abroad." I want to know, and I have a feeling you want to know. So we're going to get to know what this is all about with Bishop Joseph W. Tolton. Bishop Tolton is no stranger to our show, and he's no stranger to this work. He's the former advisor to the U.S. State Department's Office of Religion and Global Affairs. He's also the founder of Interconnected Justice, a Pan-African advocacy organization building a policy blueprint to counter the Christian nationalist agenda globally. We're going to talk with Bishop Joseph Tolton, who is right here in Washington, D.C. at the Congressional Black Caucus when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than Saquon Barkley, the NFL's reigning leading rusher. I'm also the NFL's leading husher. Shh, hush up back there. Wow, I might have just set the hushing record. Well, almost. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side. Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.
You're still grooving, still connecting, still loving, still turning up, still thriving. You still got it, but your immune system, it weakens as you age. That's where vaccines come in. They help train and strengthen your immune response to fight off respiratory illnesses like flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, or COVID-19. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Book in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Hit me! National News The Consequence. Informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and I'm really delighted to be joined during this Congressional Black Caucus ALC weekend with Bishop Joseph W. Tolton. He is the founder of Interconnected Justice. It's a Pan-African advocacy organization that is focused on building a policy blueprint to counter Christian nationalist work globally. He's also the former advisor to the U.S. State Department's Office of Religion and Global Affairs. Welcome back to the show, Bishop Tolton.
It's always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you, Dr. Nii.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be with you. First things first, as I was sharing during our national news roundup, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, is summoning military leaders for a rare meeting here in Washington, D.C. earlier this week. As somebody who has worked in the federal government, who's worked in the administration, though you were at the State Department, what do you suspect the Secretary of War may be up to? What might this rare meeting be about?
I think that this change in the branding of the Department of Defense is something that perhaps didn't get the attention that it necessitated. This completely changes the very rationale for having a military, particularly the strongest military in the world. The idea of being a Department of Defense is that we were opposed to proactively, generally speaking, striking other nations, and that the purpose of our military apparatus was really to defend America's shores. This is about creating a sense of being kind of proactively on the offense as a military. And so I would imagine that he is bringing leaders in from the military who are stationed around the world because they have to go through a season of orientation and indoctrination, whereby which they change their headset from understanding their role in the military to be more responsive to crises, to then becoming actually proactive, where clearly Trump has desires to use the military in a very different way. And I think that the attacks on boats to the south of us are a clear example of what it means to have a mindset that is aggressively for war as opposed to a mindset that is about defending our territory.
You know, we've talked about Secretary Hegseth quite a bit in our interactions on this show. You know, Pete Hegseth, who was accused during his confirmation hearing of supporting, enabling, affirming, peddling in white nationalist ideology. I believe there is a tattoo that he has that seems to align with white nationalist ideology. Talk to us about why you think this particular secretary is problematic, considering the mission of the Department of War, now as we call it, but also given the threat that our nation is facing when it comes to white nationalism, when it comes to folks who support white supremacy in all of its forms. Talk to us about how problematic it is that this very important department is being led by who so many people see as a very problematic leader.
During his confirmation hearings, I wish that more Democratic senators had actually focused on his deep connections to the most extreme of the extreme who consider themselves a part of the Dominionist movement. His pastor, his name is Doug Wilson. Every listener under the sound of our voice should Google this man because he is certainly one of the most dangerous and outspoken members of the far Christian right. He really proposes things like women going back into the kitchen, literally. His demonization of DEI goes further than I have read or heard quotes of anyone else's, particularly being unleashed in their criticism of DEI. The language that he used at Kirk's funeral were beyond chilling. He literally called viewers and listeners to war. He literally branded those on the left as being demonic and worthy of being treated as we would treat any other demon. This is Pete Hegseth's pastor. You remember well the firestorm of criticism that the Obamas received because of words that Reverend Jeremiah Wright spoke, and he, of course, was their pastor. The words that have come out of Wilson's mouth have just been on fire, and I believe that they speak boldly to the sentiments that really drive and inform the thinking of this secretary. This is a dangerous connection.
A very dangerous connection, and a connection that shouldn't come as a surprise. It shouldn't come as a surprise. There are a number of people here at Congressional Black Caucus that, in my view, the people that I've spoken with, they are a bit surprised that Democratic leadership isn't doing more to turn on the lights on these very troubling insights. What are you hearing here at Congressional Black Caucus among leaders across the country, that share your mission of going after, white Christian nationalists, that sort of extremism that is, becoming a very powerful source?
As I perused the program and the agenda for the annual legislative conference, of course, I was pleased to see that there's much conversation happening about this slide to autocracy, particularly as it relates to the ways in which the Supreme Court have become a foot soldier in this march toward autocracy. There's certainly been lots of conversations about the consolidation of the media, issues regarding the freedom of speech. I was disappointed that there was not one session that directly took on the religious aspects of white Christian nationalism and understanding the ways in which religious fervor, religious language, and the momentum that only religion is able to whip up. No session directly took that on. And I think that might be because, unfortunately, the CBC at this point just has not come to grips with how they are to counter these forces of religion, because I'm sure they will be accused of issues around the freedom of religion, condemning religion, etc. I've met with several staffers of some key congressional leaders in the CBC and began to give them a 101 on dominionism. And I was surprised that for so many of the staffers, this was new information. We have to go in as progressive pastors and progressive clergy, and we have to inform and educate the Congressional Black Caucus. And I think we have to free them to be able to use language that responds more directly to the dangerous theological rhetoric that is driving dangerous political outcomes. We, as progressive faith leaders, are going to have to really lead the CBC in this regard, and I think that there's no question that we can and we will.
Do you think the CBC is overwhelmed by it all? I mean, a few days ago I had a chance to attend and participate in a press briefing with members of the Congressional Black Caucus, and one of the questions that I asked was related to this government shutdown, asking what I thought was a very fair, clarifying question: is what are the red lines? What are the red lines for the CBC in order to vote to avert a government shutdown? What are the red lines for the Democratic caucus in order to avert a government shutdown? Where is the consensus among the Congressional Black Caucus in order to establish those red lines to avert a government shutdown? I was not satisfied with the response to that question, which led me to believe that maybe there isn't any consensus at the moment. And so how do you feel about the possibility that if the CBC may not have consensus on how to address the threat of this government shutdown, how much better position is the CBC to be an authoritative voice in countering the threat of white Christian nationalism?
This is the million-dollar question for us as people of African descent who overwhelmingly vote for the Democratic Party. It has become clear to me that at this point in time, the party is not ready to become the party of resistance. The party is not ready to embrace being radicalized. And when I say radicalized, I mean truly going to the mat to preserve and to fight for and to advocate for our progressive principles. And beyond defending the line, what they really have an opportunity to do is to be extraordinarily creative in determining what is the future for America that we want to actually present and propose to the American people. So yes, I do think that they are to some degree overwhelmed. I also think that they are stuck in a mode of their political presentation that is outdated. On the other side, there is a movement, and we have a movement later. On our side, we are still playing politics as usual. Now, these politics as usual did help us in a time past, but we need a third civil rights movement where we learn from the second civil rights movement. And a part of that learning is that the tools that we might have used back in the 60s and the 70s certainly have got to be radically modernized because the forces that we are facing are very different. Again, I'm going to bring this back to us, the people, that we have got to stand up and we've got to push the CDC. Let me give you one example. I appreciated the interview that our former Vice President, Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris, who I applaud on so many levels, had with Rachel Maddow. When asked about whether or not she endorsed Zohran Mamdani in the New York race, I thought her answer was a bit weak and a little tepid and a bit casual. A really big missed opportunity. Leader Jeffries, also a big missed opportunity. There is a chance for them to, in a full-throated way, endorse him, even as a way of saying that we realize where the party is going. We see that we need to be far more aggressive in our tactics, and this is an opportunity for us to say to our people, who are really the foot soldiers in this struggle, that we are with you in the trenches. There has got to be a positive and kind of glorious radicalization of the party. There is an opportunity for that, and we, I think, as African Americans, are going to have to push that, and we're going to have to demand it.
I think you're right. I think we're going to have to demand for not just the party, not just the Democratic Party, but any opposition leaders to the status quo right now. I think we're going to have to demand some radical imagination and some courage. And I think as a part of that equation, I think funders are very much a part of that equation. Some of the donor activists out there, many of which that a number of these leaders are beholden to, right? And so let's talk about the money, because the work that you're doing to counter the rise of white Christian nationalism globally, that is a righteous mission, but I'm also well aware, that there are a lot of, elite, there are a lot of donors out there that don't want to mess up the money. They don't want to attract any unwanted attention. And so talk to me about your pitch to funders. Well, if you could, have 10 minutes with some of the biggest donors, some of the most obvious donors that should be supporting the work of your organization, supporting work to address the rise of white Christian nationalism around the world. What's your pitch?
On the day of Pentecost, we had believers come from all over that part of the world. And the Bible says that they received the Spirit of Christ, and what happened was that they all began to speak in every language under the sun. Jesus essentially came as one who politically united the factions of those who were colonized by the Roman Empire. And after his death, he sent his Spirit, and his Spirit then allowed these different factions to be able to speak to each other so that they could become unified. We need to have a political Pentecostal moment where we who believe in freedom come together and understand that we have to speak in every tongue that is under the sun. The American experiment is a glorious one in that we believe that people come from everywhere and they can become American. That is so akin to the spirit of Pentecost. And I deeply believe that what we must call for is a Pentecostal political moment in which those of many different tongues come together to all speak one language with one clear message of freedom, with one clear message of justice.
Well, there you have it. For all the donor activists that are listening and watching us right now, that are wondering where you can make the biggest impact long term, right? To help turn things around. Bishop Tolton just gave you a little bit of he laid that foundation for why you might support this work.
And Nii, can I just jump in to also say that in terms of more specifically with the donors and how they give money, there are a couple of things. One is they need another level of courage. That's number one. Number two, they need a different vision around capitalism and their particular participation in our capitalist empire, right? Because modest change is one thing, but we really got to go to the source of the issues, which is the ways in which Christian nationalism seeks to entrench America's capitalism around the world, making the consumer market a global market. So therefore, the rules of capitalism have got to become rules that are played globally. There is a huge opportunity for funders to stop seeing this line of demarcation between what we do domestically and what they do in terms of their global funding. One of the most difficult things about interconnected justice is that we are uniting African Americans and Africans to fight together on issues that affect both of us in our different theaters. But for most funders, they can't get their heads around that kind of multinational or transnational organizing because their budgets or their funding opportunities are placed in baskets. They have got to destroy the lines between these baskets, both in terms of geography, but also in terms of issues. I've said to funders who are very interested in the LGBTQ issue in Africa, you're going to have to also get in the business of racial justice to combat issues of LGBTQ dignity, because homophobia on the continent has been racialized. You cannot separate the hydrogen and the oxygen and still call it water, right? We're going to have to really live the values of intersectional organizing, which means money is going to have to be poured into intersectional justice propositions that are not just neatly doing queer work or neatly defending women's rights or neatly doing racial justice. We're going to have to really have projects that live at the point of intersection and that are funded at the point of intersection and are funded transnationally. We want to see our young people in America who are fighting against police brutality connected with our young people in Brazil who are also having that fight, to have unified organizing. We want to see women in Mexico who are Afro-Latinos who are fighting to get a greater share of political presence in Mexico, connected with women across the continent who are doing exactly the same. You got to break down the barriers in these institutions of giving that allow for much more fluidity, innovation, and creativity. Transnational giving is a must, particularly for people of African descent.
And you don't have to wait till Giving Tuesday in order to do it. When we come forward, we're going to tell you how you can support the work of interconnected justice, the work that Bishop Tolton is leading. Also, when we come forward, we're going to talk about this foreign policy article on why Charlie Kirk's white nationalism resonated with some non-whites above. You are abroad. You are living in a time where we can't look away from this. We just can't. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come.
The audience is listening. Thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams is denying claims he was bribed to quit the mayoral race after Curtis Sliwa alleged Andrew Cuomo offered him money to drop out.
No one has not offered me money to leave the race, and we would not accept it if it was offered.
Polls show Adams trailing badly, with Democrat Zohran Mamdani leading, Cuomo second, and Sliwa third. The Trump administration is pulling $65 million in grants from magnet schools in New York City, Chicago, and Fairfax, Virginia, saying they violated civil rights laws. Officials ordered changes to transgender, DEI, and black student success programs, but when districts refused, the funding was cut. And the 65th annual Skyview Open wrapped up this week in Asheville, North Carolina. The tournament, known as the longest-running black-owned golf event, highlights black golfers. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Every day a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. And they're waiting. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It's not too early to talk some NBA. In preparation for the start of training camp on Monday for all 30 NBA teams, ESPN is ranking its top 10 players heading into the season. The Lakers are the only team with 2 players on the list. Let's see if you agree with ESPN's top 10 ranking. At number 10, Jalen Brunson. Number 9, Kevin Durant. LeBron is at number 8. Steph Curry at number 7. Anthony Edwards at number 6. Here is the top 5, and all 5 are international players. At number 5, Victor Wembanyama. Number 4, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Number 3, Luka Doncic. Number 2, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And number 1, Nikola Jokic. What do you think about this list? The fact that ESPN's top 5 players are from outside of the U.S. says a lot about the growth of international basketball. Send me your thoughts at ray@smileyAudiomedia.com. ray@smileyAudiomedia.com. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on.
KBLA Talk 1580. We fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA, and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chucky. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Stop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
September is World Alzheimer's Month, a time to shine a light on a public health crisis that hits black families hardest. 1 in 5 black adults ages 70 and older is living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD, and it's not a normal part of aging. Early signs like repeating questions, missed appointments, even trouble handling bills might seem small, but they matter. The good news? There are treatment options available that may slow AD when diagnosed early. Don't wait. Visit treatalzearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com to learn more. This message is brought to you by AZI.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. The Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and child care. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. Let's preserve black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from from black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Loss Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of black land loss before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandloss.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, here at the Washington Convention Center in Washington, D.C. at the Congressional Black Caucus's annual legislative conference. Also here at the CBC conference is Bishop Joseph W. Tolton. He is founder of Interconnected Justice, and he is on a mission to address the rising threat of white Christian nationalism around the world. He is a former advisor to the U.S. State Department's Office of Religion and Global Affairs, and he is with us. Bishop Tolton, I stumbled upon this article that was published by Foreign Policy entitled "Why Charlie Kirk's White Nationalism Resonated with Some Non-Whites Abroad." This article saying he had followers in countries where majority groups feel insecure. Break it down for us. What was it about Charlie Kirk that set him apart from other political figures that we see lifted up in the Christian white nationalist movement?
Well, he certainly had, he was particularly gifted as an orator, and he certainly had his a level of personal appeal. But I think it's important for us to just for a moment consider Donald Trump's speech at UNGA, which occurred on Monday, I believe. As much as one of the British newspapers literally labeled him as utterly deranged, and this speech rambled on about just the most unbelievable things, considering his stature in the world. But one of the things that Trump did was that he teased the European leaders about the fact that their countries were being destroyed. And what he basically was getting at was, you see me whitening America or protecting America's whiteness. Come on, boys and girls. You know you want to protect your whiteness as well. So this idea of actually globalizing Christian nationalism is something that we have to embrace as an absolute reality. It has been happening for many years. There is a desire by white Christian nationalists to create a block of leaders, a block of constituents around the world who share their prejudices and their positions. And core to their positions is drumming up fear about cultural erosion. Obviously, here in America, Trump goes on and on as the candidate for election about the fact that immigrants were poisoning the blood of America. What he's getting at is this idea of the demonization of the other. I think the ways in which Kirk's message resonated is because there are men, particularly, who are targeted around the world. But beyond that, there are those who deeply fear this idea that their cultures are under threat. Because we live in a global communion. The internet has broken down the walls between us. And so now a big question that we have is, does culture respect borders? And the ways in which culture is becoming far more fluid, and the ways in which we are exporting and importing cultural values and ideas all the time now, because the pipeline between us as a human family is so open and so very fluid. So, yes, if you are afraid of gender equity, afraid of feminism, or afraid of pluralism, those messages of Charlie Kirk are going to resonate with you. So I think what the article was getting at is that this infrastructure around white Christian nationalism and its ideology has not only been built here in the United States, but it definitely has also been built around the world. And the article gave some specific examples, specifically referring to the ways in which that infrastructure has been built in Japan. We have to build a counter infrastructure and a counter narrative, knowing that the message of love will conquer all.
You know, one of the things that is mentioned in this article, it says, quotes, what unites these actors is less theology than common opposition to pluralism, to gender equality, to secular cosmopolitanism. Kirk's death made him into a martyr around whom the liberal forces could rally regardless of creed or color. And so for those of us that are just looking at our timelines on social media, and we're a bit surprised to see, certain folks in pop culture, maybe even friends and family members, that seem to be, at a minimum, sympathizers of these Christian nationalists, sympathizers to these evangelical leaders that peddle in Christian nationalism, at a minimum, sympathizers. But even more than that, folks are affirming these people and affirming this work. Talk to us about the relationship between Christian nationalism, white Christian nationalism, and how we're seeing men and boys respond to this thread of Christianity, folks that may not be white themselves, but they too seem to be sympathizers at a minimum with this sort of demonstration of religion.
Racism and the history of racism in this country is so deep. We talk about white fragility, and we often talk a lot about kind of white fragility as it relates to white women. But it's so key for us to get that racism was so much about the fragility and the fear that white men had around their own masculinity, around their own virility. This takes us back to the idea of the oversized black man and this idea that white men paled in comparison and all the emotions that brings up. So this notion of being replaced is really critical to the ways in which men have been captivated by this ideology. In this case, white replacement as it relates to men being replaced, it's not so much about the fact that we're going to see fewer men being born, but masculinity and manhood is being replaced. If you can be transgender, that means that you can actually co-opt my sense of masculinity and my masculine identity. If you, as a black man, are to have some sense of masculinity, oftentimes we take it from these old notions of what white men have taught us masculinity is all about. So yes, I think men and boys at this moment in time, because we're seeing such an emergence of women in the marketplace and women professionally coming into their own, but this is all corrective. It's corrective of the fact that we have seen women so pushed out and that their competency and their possibilities have been masked and shadowed for so many years. So during this point of correction, I think that there's a major opportunity for men to embrace that correction, not be intimidated by it, and to actually see how women coming into their own only completes our sense of masculinity. It does not undermine our sense of masculinity. So yes, I think that men are pliable in this moment of correction in the same ways that white people who are not of a particular economic means are also pliable during this time of correction, where you see an emergence of black and brown people, particularly black people, doing so well in the marketplace. This is about correcting what happened in Jim Crow. And on many levels, if whites who are not economically advantaged were to connect with blacks, as Dr. King wanted us to do during the Poor People's Campaign that he started, that Dr. Barber certainly is driving today, what an opportunity there would be for them to lift their lives. We are in a moment of correction around the issues of racism and sexism and homophobia. And during that time of correction, it can feel as if the gains of those who were once marginalized are theft from those who once had. But in fact, it is a correction that brings us all together to realize the possibilities that we have, not only within of ourselves, but collectively, now that those who are on the margins can bring their brilliance and their beauty to the public square to hopefully kiss and marry the brilliance and beauty of the majority population. It can work. That's what Pentecost is all about.
In our remaining minutes with you, Bishop, I want to give you a chance to let our leaders, leaders, and listeners know where they can go to tap into the work that you're leading with Interconnected Justice, to all of the donor activists that are listening, that are looking at organizations that are doing that forward-facing work, that are doing that intersectional organizing, that this transcontinental organizing. Interconnected Justice is one of those organizations. Where can people go to learn more and support?
Absolutely. www.icjustice.org, and that is the letter I, the letter C, justice.org. And we intentionally, of course, created that URL because every day that we wake up, we see justice on the horizon. Please visit our website, learn more about our programs, and certainly feel free to donate. And certainly if you log on and you're a donor who obviously is not giving personally, you can find out information as to how you can connect with myself or some of the other executives within Interconnected Justice. And once again, I would just say to our donor community that there's an opportunity to fund the organizing that happens within a religious context without actually funding the religion itself. That's what funders did as it related to the civil rights movement. I think that, again, there's also an opportunity to fund in a transnational way, and there's also an opportunity to fund more at that point of the intersections. David Brooks, who's obviously a conservative, said this, and if I can, I'd like to read it. He says that the civil rights movement had a well-crafted theory of the relationship between religion and politics. The movement's theology taught its members that they were themselves sinful and that they had to put restraints on their political action in order to guard against the sins of hatred, self-righteousness, and the love of power. Without any such theory, MAGA imposes no restraints and sin roams free. There are those of us who are the children of the civil rights movement, and we intend to move forward with an understanding of the ways in which religion and politics can intersect with each other, but not in ways that are dangerous, but are in ways where the values that we have as Christians inform our politics. Inform, they don't capture our politics.
Our thanks to Bishop Joseph W. Tolton. He is founder of Interconnected Justice, and really appreciate your time, you being so generous with your expertise. as we get clear-eyed on the work ahead. We are here in Washington, D.C. at the Congressional Black Caucus, and you are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More will come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least like to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, KBLA delegation. Tavis Smiley here. On Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech becomes the epicenter of ideas that matter. The Left Coast Forum is bringing together voices that challenge, inspire, and illuminate, with keynote presentations from people like noted economist Richard Wolff, the man who breaks down capitalism in ways that make sense to working folk like you and me, and Dr. Cornel West will be there, the brilliant philosopher and activist who never stops fighting for justice and speaking truth to power and to the powerless, for that matter. So, this isn't just another conference. This is where ideas get tested, where the conversations that shape our future begin. Multiple plenary sessions, dynamic speakers, real talk about the issues that impact our communities, and then some good food and a live band. Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech, Left Coast Forum. The event is free and open to the public, but you must register at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can also peep the plenary topics. The future belongs to those who show up and engage. So, don't just think about change, be part of the conversation that creates it. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters, your presence matters. We'll see you there.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, broadcasting from the Congressional Black Caucus here in Washington, D.C. It's time for the quiet part out loud. I wanted to take this opportunity to celebrate a trailblazing black journalist who passed on Belva Davis. She was a trailblazing black Bay Area broadcast journalist who died at the age of 92. Anybody who knows me, you know that I have long held the dream of continuing the work of the black press. Take that mandate of the black press very seriously to liberate and educate, and that's certainly how I'm remembering the legacy of Belva Davis. I remember growing up in the Bay Area and seeing journalists like Belva Davis on the local news, seeing folks like Dennis Richmond, KTVU, on the local news, people like Pam Moore on KRON, Carolyn Tyler on ABC7 News in the Bay Area. There's so many incredible black journalists that I grew up watching on the TV that inspired me to somehow, some way enter into this field. And so today I want to recognize Belva Davis, the Bay Area and West Coast first black female television news anchor. She died at the age of 92, but her career spanned more than 5 decades as she worked in print and radio and television. According to the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, the San Francisco Northern California chapter, they inducted her into the Gold Circle class of 2013, just 1 year after her retirement from KQED in 2012. She worked for several Bay Area television news outlets, including KTVU, KPIX, KRON, as well as KQED. That's where she hosted a KQED PBS show called This Week in Northern California for nearly 20 years. It was at KTVU where she really made her TV debut in 1963, covering an African-American beauty pageant. And KPIX then hired her in 1966 in San Francisco, making her the first black female television journalist in the West. She was also KRON's chief political reporter. She reported on the assassinations of San Francisco Mayor George Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk. She reported on the AIDS epidemic. She reported on the 9/11 terrorist attacks and, of course, the historic election of Barack Obama in 2008. In 2011, she penned her memoir, Never in My Wildest Dreams, A Black Woman's Life in Journalism, which tells of her journey throughout her career as a reporter who made it to the anchor desk. The book continues to inspire journalists of the day, yours truly included. She graduated from Berkeley High School and began her journalism career writing for Jet Magazine. And so I want to send my deepest condolences, and I'm sure the condolences from all of us here at KBLA, to Belva Davis's family, including the love of her life, Bill Moore, who she married and worked with. He was a former KTV photographer. They don't make them quite like Belva Davis anymore. Former San Francisco mayors Lily Brown and London Breed, they reflected on her legacy. Mayor Brown saying that her legacy will be similar to other women journalists such as Barbara Walters and contemporary broadcasters like Gayle King. I couldn't agree more. And that's where we're going to have to leave it. My thanks to all of you for listening. More on A More Perfect Union when we come forward in our second hour.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams is denying claims he was bribed to quit the mayoral race after Curtis Sliwa alleged Andrew Cuomo offered him money to drop out.
No one has not offered me money to leave the race, and we would not accept it if it was offered.
Polls show Adams trailing badly with Democrat